Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I need you to get ready for a crash that could be coming this week. Now, I'll talk about exactly why that is, what's been going on, especially last Friday, all of your major events coming this week, and how together you're not set up in a very optimal position for the bulls. Now, to that statement, it sounds negative, right? It sounds like, oh my gosh, I crashed. This is terrible. Yeah. I wouldn't go that far because you've seen small and mid-cap stocks already fall. Maybe it's time for big tech to fall and small and mid-cap stocks could actually do a little bit better. We did see evidence of that on Friday, and that is something I will explain how a crash in our markets, if you will, could actually be positive for AMC stock. So hit that like button as well as subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you think about this information down below in the comment section. So first things first, what happened on Friday was pretty straightforward and simple. Semiconductors really sold off on Friday, and not just semis. It was really your AI trade in general. The momentum got crushed on Friday. Now, these stocks have been trading far above fundamental valuations. Stocks can run on momentum for a long time, and they typically take the staircase up and then the elevator down. That's a very famous quote on Wall Street. And you've been taking the elevator up for months now, for many months, at least since October, November, but really dating all the way back to July of 2023, or really May-ish, if you will. You've seen AI stocks doing pretty dang good. A lot of those stocks are up 100, 200% in that time frame, whereas the fundamentals don't match up. Thus, a lot of it was just momentum driven. Now, as you have seen the momentum get crushed on Friday, that kind of momentum shift can really be a scary thing for a lot of the bulls that were a part of this momentum trade. You're probably going to see a lot of profit taking, and the momentum may actually shift to the downside. The momentum may actually shift into not buying calls, but buying puts and shorting these stocks as well as taking profits. And when people have a lot of profits, the floor, if you will, to the downside could be a lot lower than some people think. Now, is that all going to happen at once? Who knows? Maybe it's possible. It's possible stocks just continue to sell off. This AI trade continues to sell off for a while here. Or it's possible that it goes kind of back and forth, right? You've seen a big down day on Friday. Maybe you get a big down day on Monday, and then you get a big green day on Tuesday. Who knows? That's possible. Now, due to the major events happening this week, it's not looking likely, at least in the beginning of the week, that we are going to see good news for the AI trade, at least in my personal opinion. Because first up, event number one is nothing on Monday. So there's really not anything on Monday. Nvidia in after hours on Friday fell almost 3%. Huge candle. Nvidia lost over $230 billion of market cap value. And let's be honest, a lot of people bought Nvidia between $500 and $600 or so. That's where people said, hey, fundamentals kind of justify this. Boom. This has been a lot of traders. So you're going to see a lot of stop losses start to get hit and a lot of selling to the downside. That's my personal opinion. That's my projection. I could be wrong, of course, but that's the most likely scenario. When you get a big candle like this, that's a problem, especially when the stock closes at a low and then continues to go lower in, after hours, especially on a Friday. Man, that sets you up for a pretty brutal Monday. Now, your biggest event will be on Tuesday for your AI stocks. That is the ARM SoftBank lockup period. SoftBank owns about 90% of ARM, 90.5% of ARM, and they're probably going to start selling, especially as this momentum has really started to roll over. It wouldn't surprise me if they sell quite a bit, and it wouldn't surprise me if in a sympathy move that you do see, Nvidia and all of these other stocks sell off as well. ARM is really the biggest bubble of them all because, 90+% of the float is locked up and not even trading right now. So when that float is able to trade, what do you think is going to happen? Well, it's not going to be pretty for ARM. The algorithms are likely to, in sympathy, sell off your other AI stocks as well. This can have a pretty bad impact on the broader indexes and the broader market. So considering that ARM lockup period is on Tuesday, on Monday you could see some selling just because people know that's coming. Just because markets expect more selling in semiconductors the day after. It wouldn't surprise me if that makes Monday a really, really bad day tomorrow for semis. And that could be a problem for the broader indexes as well. Could be a positive for AMC though, and we'll talk about exactly why that is throughout this video, and again, a price prediction for AMC this week. Now, let's take a look at your earnings calendar that we're going to have for this week. So, yes, it seems like every week is earnings week. Let's see, I might just have to go to it. Earnings Whisper on X puts together this great image every weekend for the upcoming week and what the largest earnings are and when they're going to be reporting. So Monday and after hours, you have Oracle and Asana. Oracle could be important, but is it going to move the broad markets? Is it going to be the biggest catalyst? Probably not. There's really not too much on Tuesday. You have Kohl's pre-market and Workhorse, but that's basically it. Wednesday pre-market, Dollar Tree and Zim. Wednesday and after hours, you have UiPath. Thursday pre-market, Dollar General, Build-A-Bear Workshop, and Futu, as well as Dick's Sporting Goods. Thursday and after hours is going to be your largest day for earnings. That is Adobe, Blink, and Ulta Beauty, as well as PagerDuty. And there can be other earnings here as well that report on these days, but these are the companies that have the most analysts covering them. So keep in mind, Thursday could be a big day, especially with Adobe and Ulta reporting earnings. But even on Monday, yeah, Oracle could be a decent earnings to be watching as well. Now, if we take a look at the actual calendar here, we're not going to have anything for economic data on Monday, so you're in the clear there. I think it's all going to be about semis and this momentum that fell through the floor on Friday. Now, on Tuesday, you're going to get the ARM lockup period. SoftBank's likely to start selling some of their ARM position, but you're also going to get CPI. So core CPI month over month expected at 0.3%, and last month was 0.4%, so that would be a slight deceleration month over month. Core CPI year over year is expected to fall from 3.9% last month to 3.7%. Headline inflation month over month expected to increase from 0.3% to 0.4%, and year over year CPI expected to come in line with last month's number of 3.1%. So across the board, a little bit more disinflation is expected for this February CPI report. If that does not happen, and let's say core CPI comes in at 0.4, 0.5%, that would be a huge problem. Now, if it comes in at 0.3% or lower, that could be a big boost to markets as well. On Wednesday, we're not going to have much of anything as far as the economic calendar. Some data coming out of the UK, like GDP month over month. That's actually expected to go positive again. On Thursday, we are going to get PPI month over month. CPI is consumer price index. PPI is producer price index. So usually if you see a spike in PPI or a uptrend in PPI, usually that means CPI is inevitably going to get an uptrend or a spike as well, because if producers' costs are going up, typically they pass that on to consumers. Now, last month, PPI month over month came in at 0.3%. The estimate, again, is for 0.3%. So lower than that, good news. Higher than that, that's going to be bad news. Retail sales month over month for the month of February came in, or January came in at negative 0.8%. You are expecting positive 0.7%. So that would be good, right? That would be, kind of canceling out February, if you will, because this is on a month over month basis. So if you come in higher than 0.7%, that's going to be great. That's going to be fantastic. That's going to be positive retail sales so far for 2024. If you come in, less than that, or especially negative, that's where things start to look really ugly for the economy as well, considering 70 to 73% of GDP is consumers spending money. If retail sales numbers are not good, well, that means GDP estimates are going to fall, which ultimately I think could give the markets quite a bit of downside from here as well. Now, you're also going to get the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Survey coming out Friday at 9 o'clock in the morning, expecting 76.6. Last month was 76.9. So you're actually expecting the sentiment to drop a little bit. But really what's important is your 1 and 5 year inflation expectations. 5-year inflation expectations have stayed right at about 2.9% for a while here. If that spikes, that's a problem. And then inflation expectations over the 1 year period ahead, 12-month period, is expected right at about 3%. That was the same as last month, and it's been roughly around 3% for a while. Your 1 year inflation expectations can spike quite a bit. Your 5-year tend to stay pretty low. So it's really probably your 5-year that is a little bit more impactful and important to be watching. Michigan consumer expectations are expected to come in at 75.8, a little bit better than last month's number of 75.2, and Michigan current conditions are expected to increase a little bit from 79.4 to 79.5. So that's kind of weird if they're expecting the headline number could actually go down, but it's expected that everything's going to be the same as far as 1 and 5 year inflation expectations, but current conditions and consumer expectations are actually expected to improve a little bit. So I think that's kind of weird how they're calculating that number here. Maybe there's something I'm ultimately missing there. We'll also have export prices month over month and import prices month over month, as well as the New York Empire State Manufacturing Index that will come out at 8:30 in the morning on Friday as well. So that will be something important to watch also. Now, specifically in regards to AMC in this week, really just the broad markets in this week. If broad markets sell off, I would expect AMC will also sell off, at least initially on that. I think the algorithms, the market makers, the quants, they're all going to start shorting stock if the indexes start to fall. People are going to pile onto puts, pile onto shorts, and that's typically how these things tend to go. But even if you paid attention on Friday, the Russell outperformed big time. It outperformed the NASDAQ by about 12x, right? The Russell was only down 0.1%. The NASDAQ was down about 1.2%, a little bit more than that even in after hours. So the NASDAQ did poorly, very poorly. The Russell actually did better, almost green. It was green for a vast majority of the day, even when, these other indexes were deep red and selling off. Now, I think ultimately, give it a couple of days, maybe a week or two, however long it takes to get kind of this correction in the markets. After that, or kind of second inning of that correction, you could likely start to see small cap stocks outperforming as capital goes into other areas of our markets. And I'll tell you the caveat to this. You will not see small cap stocks outperforming if it looks like we're going into a recession. So if we get bad retail sales data, if we get bad Michigan consumer sentiment data, and it looks like things are getting worse out there in the economy, small cap stocks will not, rally back if big tech falls. But if nothing changes from here, if everything kind of stays the same and is status quo over the next couple of weeks, once you get that initial drop in your AI stocks and you start to, get some capital moving around, I think a lot of that money is going back into small cap stocks. I think the small cap stocks, mid cap stocks, your average stock, if you will, could be a leader on the upside once, after this correction, when stocks start to rebound. That's just my personal opinion. That's kind of, what I would expect if the logic and the narrative is soft landing and rate cuts. That is a recipe for small caps to do very well. It's been mind-blowing why small caps have been the ones lagging and big tech has been the one leading, right? It's all been momentum driven. When you think about it like that, well, hey, maybe the real opportunity is your small cap stocks, something like an AMC, for an example. Obviously, this is going to take some time to play out. I could be wrong. I'm subject to be wrong, so come to your own conclusions. I am not a financial advisor. Now, as far as this upcoming week, I do think markets are going to fall, and I do think that means AMC stock is likely to fall as well. I'm really targeting a low, a bottom for this week around $4.05, $4.05 per share. Could you fall lower than that? Of course. I think you're going to find a lot of support around $4 per share. But if things are just really bad this week, if this is like a mini flash crash kind of week, you could see AMC stock even fall under $4 per share, and that would be one hell of a problem, right? For AMC and for even the broader markets at that point, right? If small cap stocks are also selling off, That's a big problem. So we'll have to see exactly which way kind of capital flows in our markets. But so far on Friday, so far so good. And I do think ultimately that's a big positive for AMC. So how could I see this thing playing out? I could see a dip here in AMC stock. I could see a consolidation period. Not a long one though, because I think once you ultimately get that fall in your broad markets, you're going to see capital go into small cap stocks. Algorithms are going to start bidding up those small cap stocks unless something changes and it looks like we're going into recession. That's the real key here. If it starts to look like we're going into recession, this momentum collapsing could just be the start of the shit show that we are faced. If momentum falls, collapses, that's usually what happens first if you're going into a larger crash, then that's one thing. That likely sends you down to about $4 per share. If indeed it looks like retail sales are collapsing or maybe inflation is spiking at the same time retail sales are collapsing, that's really your stagflation, that would be not good. And I think AMC stock over the next couple of weeks could fall to as low as $2 and some change. If it looks like we're going into recession, maybe you could even fall more than that. That's not my base case assumption. If I were to put odds on this, I would say maybe 20-25% odds that it starts looking like we're heading into recession, that momentum rolled over first, and everything else is going to roll over after it in a meaningful way. Maybe someone knows we're heading into recession. Who knows? That's the key. We really didn't have a specific one-off catalyst that caused the momentum collapse in AI stocks for last week. So there's a lot in the air, in that regard, right? And then, there's probably a 75% chance that this is just a reset, a simple correction in our markets. The economy's holding up, inflation's continuing to fall, and you see a broadening out of our markets in small and mid-cap stocks. I think if you were to put your money on it, that's the best place to be, but there is a moderate chance, a 25% chance, I would say, assigning odds to this, that this does turn into a larger kind of crash. You get momentum rolling over first. You get your big tech, your stocks with the biggest gain so far in 2024 rolling over first and rolling over hard. And then you get the recessionary fears to add on that. And you could be looking at a sharp crash like you've seen in 2022. I don't even think people remotely think that's possible at this point. But let me tell you, it definitely is. The markets are not priced for some kind of crash event. So let me know what you think about this information down below in the comment section. That is my opinion on AMC stock for this week, what I think is going to happen, and really over the next couple of weeks as well. Hit the like button as well as subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.